We go ahead and get started here.
Yeah, let's do the thing.
Okay, so I just want to say up front that we are going to record this just because we think it's a way to build audience. And I'm assuming that we aren't going to talk about things that you would not share with others. And so I'm just going to put that out there up front. So don't say anything that you aren't interested in others to hear, which I think is generally a good idea anyway. And so we will go ahead and start the recording at this point. Is that correct, Nicole?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. And then, Nicole, are we going to do introductions? Since we have a pretty small group, I think we can get away with that.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
do just a short
Perfect. So my name is Rolf, and I'm with Jerrol, so some of you may know, and we are hosting this community Q&A at this point every Friday at 7:30 in the morning. And it's just to give our community some space for hopefully an opportunity for truth and for reaching out to each other as a community to see how we can best get through the current times. Having a pandemic is one thing. Now we throw on top of civil unrest, which always was there. It's just now coming to the forefront. This is a very unique time for our community, both as a country, as a world, but also in Ellensburg. And I feel very strongly that this is a space for us to do things differently. As I mentioned earlier, I heard a phrase on NPR, and it was a woman who said, I hope that in the future they look back and say, look at how hard they tried, as opposed to saying they turned a blind eye. And it's very poetic, but I also think that it's very apt. And I feel immensely strong that this is where we should be putting ourselves out there, and that we need to do some things differently, and that our community is not perfect, although it's a wonderful community. There are things we can all do better. So that's my introduction. And why don't we just go around and each person introduce themselves for 30 seconds, and then we'll just open it up, and we have some questions that hopefully Nicole will prompt me on. Liz Whitaker, first of all, I just want to say thank you for everything you've been doing, because I know you've been volunteering in the medical arena for some things, but I'll let you introduce yourself if you would.
Okay, so Becky knows me. I'm a nurse. I'm a retired public health nurse. I retired it's been almost a year now, in July last summer. And if I hadn't retired, I'd be doing what the rest of the public health department is doing right now with COVID-19 response. And they did recruit me to help with some of the testing when we had the Twin City Foods outbreak. And it's possible that I'll help with some other testing too. And I also know Rolf. My first job as a public health nurse was with children with special healthcare needs. So I've been involved with the parent-to-parent group. I've been involved with, I've known folks at Central Washington Disability Resources and worked with them. I'm also a member of the Ellensburg Lions Club, and we try to pay for glasses and sometimes hearing aids for folks who can't afford them, which is often folks with disabilities who are on Social Security that doesn't pay for those things, which makes me angry. You know, when you only get $800 a month, how do you pay for a $500 pair of glasses? I have no idea.
Okay, I'm going to try to hold you there.
Anyway, I'm done.
30 seconds, but thank you and welcome.
That's enough. So yeah.
Terry, could you please take a moment and introduce yourself?
I'm Terry Caldwell. Obviously, it says so right there. But I'm basically a retired chef. I've been doing this for a year. I'm the administrative assistant here at Central Washington Disabilities Resources. My boss hates it when I say I'm a phone jockey. But
that's most of what you do, it sounds like.
I do a lot of work on the phone. I do a lot of typing and data entry and filing, of course. I've been here a year. I stopped working for Jim Rowe about a year and a half ago. He brought me to this area. I'm originally from LA,
Hmm.
was in Yakima for 20 years, and I've been here for 3 years. So,
Well, welcome and thank you for joining us. I know CWDR does wonderful things, very near and dear to my heart, and somewhat unknown in the wider community, I think. So thank you for everything you do.
no, you're very welcome.
Liz Fountain, would you like to introduce yourself?
I will. Thanks, Rolf. I am on the faculty at Central. I teach in the IT management department. I've lived in Ellensburg since 2011. Grew up in Yakima and Wenatchee, and then went to Seattle for many years, came back to have a little bit of a different lifestyle. And I'm also a writer, and I have a couple of books published. And I was telling Nicole earlier that I think, Rolf, you and I initially met in that way because you are such a great supporter of local authors. I also live about 3.5 blocks from Jerrol's. And I just am so appreciative of Jerrol's as a business and Rolf as a human being. And when I saw the email last night, I thought I have to be part of this conversation.
Well, thank you. And thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Becky, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, I'm Becky Peterson. I teach in public health, and I have a real kind of personal academic focus on societal and individual decision, what that means for outcomes, and kind of community capacity, particularly around critical literacy, which is the idea of knowing and having the skills that you need to do what you want to do for yourself and others. And that's in I've taken as director for our general education program, which is neat. But like Terry, I find myself more of an email jockey right now than in the classroom. I'm constantly working with other faculty and trying to help smooth things in the program, help things work better, help people get their own needs met as faculty members and that kind of thing. And I really love this, Rolf and Nicole, because we people were invited to gather at a coffee shop, and we did it for a couple of years. And it was just because, you know, Liz and I ran into each other, and my husband afterwards said, gosh, you're in public health, you never talk unless I tried this, I tried to.
Becky, I'm sorry to jump in here, but we're really struggling with your audio.
Oh, okay. Is that any better?
That's much better. And we did hear some of
Okay.
what you said.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So I'll just say it.
I'm in awe of some of the expertise we have here, which makes me very excited because it's amazing what we have in our own community. Often people want to look outside, but if we just looked inside, I think we would find a great deal of information.
Yes.
And Rolf, we have 2 more jumping in real quick. Celeste and Julie, we actually just to catch you gals up, we just did introductions. So if you, let's jump to Celeste. If you want to just start with your name, let us know who you are, a little blurb about yourself, and you are able to, everyone is muted upon entry, and you can mute yourself when you're not talking. If you can go ahead and click on your screen, there should be an option that says mute, unmute Celeste. Hey, there she is.
Okay, Celeste Erickson. I've lived here over 50 years, retired at the present time, former school teacher.
Welcome, Celeste. Just to give you a heads up, this is being recorded so that other people can jump in that aren't able to join us. So I always think it's a good idea not to say things that you wouldn't want others to hear, but I just want to put that out there that this is being recorded. Nicole, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Oh yeah, me. So my name is Nicole Priggy Taylor. I have lived here my whole life. So that's 29 years of Ellensburg. I have a social media marketing, at this point, almost advising company called Priggy Productions. I'm also in a cover band locally under the Covers Band. So you could just say that I'm 100% nerd. I just like to spread it out into different areas of my life. I'm very passionate about Ellensburg and our super awesome community. So I figured I gotta be here for stuff like this.
Excellent. Well, I think everyone's got introductions, and at this point, we won't worry about going back.
Julie,
Oh,
there was one more person?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, that's
Yes.
okay. My name is Julie Peterson. I graduated from Central back in 1983. Left for a couple of decades. I've been back for 4 years now, and I work at Kittitas Valley Healthcare. Live right in downtown. So, yeah.
Well, welcome back to Ellensburg.
Julie?
Thanks. Hi.
So, I mean, obviously, there's a whole bunch of things we could cover here. I think from our standpoint, both from me as a business owner and us as a business, that we believe strongly that coronavirus is a real thing. It is a marathon that we are going to go through. It's going to be many months, like 18, like 24. I think we are better to think long-term than short-term. To think that it's going to be over in a couple of months, I think is setting ourselves up for a lot of problems. And if it gets over earlier, so much the better, right? No harm done. But I think we need to just think of this as a marathon of which we have taken a few steps. And I think it is critical that we watch out for people's health and also that we do the things to keep our economy open. Our neighbors don't have jobs. I believe that the truth is that, and I have experts here, so please correct me at any point, but I just want to put out my beliefs, where I'm coming from, that the virus is spread through water droplets, spread from one person's mouth to another. It does sometimes spread from surfaces, but that's probably not the main place. Not that that's not important to disinfect things, but the most important thing is mouth-to-mouth spread, and that wearing a mask is critical to stop water droplets from spreading. I believe a mask protects those around you, assuming you're using the basic cloth surgical masks that most people are wearing. And so when I wear a mask, I'm protecting those around me. When they wear a mask, they're protecting me from their water droplets. I think wearing a mask is very weird and uncomfortable, but I think it's the right thing to do. And quite frankly, I'm not throwing people out of my store if they don't wear it, but I can tell you they probably don't feel very comfortable. And we're doing it in a positive way, though, because I think everything has to be about positive reinforcement. I think if we do negative, that's no good. That's going in the wrong direction. So if people have issues that they can't wear masks, that's fine. I get it. I don't have a problem with that. But that's where I'm coming from. And I think it's really important that each person decide to be responsible for their own action and that they take accountability for their own action. And I think businesses need to step up and do this right. And I think any business that probably doesn't deserve your money. And that's the way to vote. But this is, I mean, to think that business and things are back to normal or business as usual, I think is just setting us up for a disaster. And I think we're going to be back to where we were. So anyway, there's my little tirade on where I would start there. And I can go into our civil unrest issues as well. Because I definitely have strong opinions, and I think it all comes down to the same thing, which is really about being responsible for your own action and wanting to be held accountable, not falling into blame, excuses, and denial. Anyway, where do we want to go from there?
Rolf, this is Liz. If you don't mind, I'll kind of jump in next. Because I want to build on something you said, something that I feel really strongly about, which is that we're kind of invited a lot to see public health and rebuilding the economy as opposites. And I'm profoundly convinced that they're exactly the same thing. That what we do to keep ourselves and each other healthy is also what we do to rebuild our economy and bring people back to work. And I know there are a lot of systems that aren't working right now to support people through this this really, really challenging time. And I'm personally committed to advocacy to get those systems working better. What I love about your message and what I want to amplify is this idea that what we do to take care of each other's health is also what we do to take care of our businesses and our economy. It's the same path forward both ways. So I'll just put that out there as kind of my bias.
There is no doubt that what we do to protect our health is also what we do to protect our economy. Absolutely. So feel free to jump in.
So this is Julie Peterson, and I just want to say I really appreciate your comments about this being, this is a long game. And I see, we just very recently had the first outbreak from one of our businesses, but we're going to have students coming back. We're going to see another wave of that. We're going to have athletes, football camps, volleyball camps. So we're going to see these, and then the public schools are going to open, knock on wood. So in different settings, in different ways, we're just going to see this come and go and be different every time. And so I really appreciate that, because I think there's this sense out there, if we get to phase 4, it's like the balloons drop and everything's back to normal. And I don't know what all those different waves or all those different outbreaks are going to look like, but I think it's just going to be built into what we deal with.
I think I think you're both right. As a public health nurse, I'm feeling like, yeah, this is going to last a long time. I hope we've been able locally to pump up our public health capacity to do the contact investigations, because I think that's a critical piece. And I'm not sure that we are there. I just don't know. They've asked me to help occasionally as a volunteer, but I'm really not in the loop about what exactly public health is doing any more than most of the rest of the public is. I listen to Dr. Larson's video. I watch Dr. Larson's video every day, and I watch the dashboard about how many positives and how many recovered people we have and that kind of stuff. But I'm sort of anxious about a second wave and how is that going to work? Because I think we're going to need to wear masks for a long time, and I think people are going to get really tired of that.
Right.
I might just to give you a little peace of mind, and I think I can come at it thankfully because our household came on the other side of it, but we had a contact scare, and my wife and I went to one of our really good friends, and she received a phone call within about 30 minutes of she had done grad photos for someone, and they were in too close of contact, which was a very good learning opportunity for both of them. And the friend received a phone call, and this was like a boom, 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 right down the line thing, which actually gave me, while it was interesting, and we went Country Girl Can Survive and had a horse trailer with a tent in it in the backyard. But it did give all of us a lot of peace of mind because we got phone calls at the very beginning, and within 3 days, everyone had answers, had been tested, had gone through the whole entire process, which feels kind of like we're in a sci-fi movie, but it's a sci-fi movie that actually has some good direction and peace to it. So I think hopefully that speaks to how fabulously the IMT, the incident management team for Kittitas County, is handling all of this. I have so much respect for them. I knew where all of them lived, they would all get a casserole. But
well, and I'll just say I have only really kept up with the day-to-day news. And can you hear me now?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. With today on it through Casey Knutson's emails as Chief Information Officer. And I loved one thing that I really internalized the other day, and it's because I focus on kind of that knowing what you need to know. And for me, it comes down to vocabulary and being able to talk each other's language, being able to decide what's important. And she wrote in one of those emails, "We don't expect that you will know the difference between isolating and quarantining. We do expect that you'll stay home." Or something very, very similar to those words. I may not have them verbatim, but so close. When who do believe they may be sick or have been told they're sick. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's what I work toward a lot in the classroom, and in a lot of what I write is about, okay, so you don't need to know, but do with your life, and if you want to help anyone else.
Oh no, we're back to struggling with your audio, Becky.
Sorry. Anyway,
Yeah, it goes in and out, Becky. It comes. Yeah.
We want you to repeat that though.
Yeah.
That sounded
Yeah.
like very important.
Okay, let me try this way. Is this better?
We'll
It is
find-
right now.
We can hear
Okay.
you now. Yeah.
Okay, just what I love is teaching and talking about words and vocabulary and the things you have to understand to do what you want to do, whether that's be healthy yourself or make the world a better place. And so I really loved that language around, we don't expect you to know the difference between X and X, but we do expect you to do this. And I think that if we could build conversation around those things that are in our own personal best interest to understand and what will help us do what we want to do, then I think that that's a place to start.
I couldn't agree more. Words are so important. And, you know, saying things with empathy, I think is everything. There's so much fear out there and so much disinformation. And, you know, one leader says this, and then they come back and they say this, and then they say that. And it's no wonder that everyone is confused. And I think it's time, at least as a community, that we just say, this is the truth. And whether you, I mean, even if you choose not to believe in A, well, having the economy open, I think is pretty hard for anyone to argue with. And so why not do the right thing, even if you don't believe in the other? But, and I would just put out there that I think the idea that this is going to come in waves is absolutely true. And that everybody is going to have a contact scare or whatever you want to call it. I've had it personally through my son. We as a business have gone through it 4 times. And I think this is where you need to set yourself up so you can keep operating. So my understanding, I hope you will help me understand if I'm correct or not, Liz, but let's say someone comes into my business who tests positive tomorrow. Or no, not test, well, let's just say test positive. If they're wearing a mask and you're doing the contact tracing and they've been in my store, I don't have a problem as long as they've been wearing a mask. So I don't have to worry about my team and my customers. But if they are not wearing a mask, now I've got a problem. And we've got to go through everybody and be concerned that they could potentially have been infected, and then they have to be tested. Is that the way this works?
Yeah, pretty much. There might be more in-depth questions about how close did that person get to anybody, and how long did they spend in the store, and those are hopefully questions that the person who tests positive should be able to answer. You know, was I there in the store for 5 minutes picking up a ream of paper, or was I browsing for a gift for an hour? You know, there's a lot of different variables.
Right.
But yeah, if the person was wearing a mask and wearing it properly over their nose, I've seen a few too many people putting the mask down below their nose and thinking, "Phooey, that's not going to help." And I haven't yet figured out how to ask somebody to pull it up over their nose if they're going to bother to wear it.
So I think what we just said is critical.
Yeah.
If you're a business owner or you work in a business and you want your business to stay open, there are going to be contact scares. There's absolutely no way almost every single person isn't going to get touched by this. Until there's a vaccine, there's not much else that's going to happen. And so wearing a mask is a way to keep your job and not have to sit out for at least 2 days, if not 14 days. I just think the more that a business owner hears that, I cannot understand why they would not protect themselves.
So Rolf, are you participating in business meetings where there are business owners who say they don't want to ask anybody to wear masks, or what?
No,
I mean,
because they probably wouldn't come anywhere near me.
oh,
But I will
'cause
tell
they
you,
know
I've
what you
had
think.
people email me saying, "Are you really requiring people to wear a mask to come in?" And I have been in other businesses where I will not go back again. And I think we all have.
So have I.
situations
Yeah.
We will not go back again.
Mhm.
And I think that is just so wrong, especially since some of these businesses are essential businesses that didn't have to close to begin with, where other business owners did, and yet they're still flagrantly ignoring the reality. I think that is so wrong for our community.
Yeah.
And I just profoundly, as a business leader, disagree with that decision. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the businesses that are wearing masks, and I'm going to thank them. I'm going to thank every single person who's working in an establishment wearing a mask, because I can tell you I've worn one for 8 hours as a well, not even 8 hours, as a frontline team member, and it is not fun. Mm-hmm. And so those people that are doing that day in and day out, I mean, it is not something they enjoy, but they are doing the responsible thing. And we should all thank them. And we should all respect them by wearing a mask as well. Because remember, their mask is protecting you. It's not protecting them. It's not their fear that's making them wear a mask. It's their responsibility and respect for you. That's the message I'm trying to get across.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was one of the coolest things that I heard. My wife came home. She happens to also, she works at Jerrol's, and she came home and told me that one of the customers she delivered to went, "Hey, thank you for wearing." And she said it took her probably 5 seconds to like process what that compliment actually meant. She was like, I'm sorry. And they went, "Oh, thank you for wearing." And she said it was just the coolest compliment that she could have gotten. And so I've started saying that to people anytime. I don't run many errands at this point in time unless they can be contact free and distanced. But if I see someone, Rolf's theory of above the line has really resonated with me. So if I see someone doing something great, praise publicly and praise loudly. And I will always say, "Hey, thank you so much for wearing," because just because I'm wearing a mask, these eyes smile. Yeah. They do it big. So I can show them even from here, "Thank you so much." And they know. So I think that's a cool compliment that if you haven't received it or haven't given it, that can really help impact some positive change too.
I think it's a great point that you can smile while wearing a mask. And wearing a mask doesn't mean drudgery and doesn't mean we have to be doom and gloom and put our eyes down and we shouldn't be ashamed. So I think it's really important to greet people. "Hi, how's it going?" Nothing's changed within human interaction. You just happen to be wearing a mask. So I wish more people would be, I could see smiles in their eyes instead of, but maybe it's because of fear and things that they're in. But yeah, I just keep coming back to empathy. We need to really think about where the other person is coming from, because everybody's dealing with something.
I really, one of the things that I've learned through this, and 5 years ago, before I came back to Ellensburg, I lived in Benton County. And I could not have told you where public health was in Benton County. They were essentially non-existent. And from the very beginning, to your point, that you have to pick your truth. Right out of the gate, the hospital said, this is a public health emergency. We're going to follow the truth of public health. We're not going to go to the World Health Organization or CDC, because there wasn't conflict, but there were differences. And it's like, we have a great public health department here. I think, Tristan and Dr. Larson were able to really draw on credibility that they had built up over years in this community. And so we don't argue with who we're going to follow. It's when there's a question, you go to public health and you say, is it 2 days or is it 7 days? Is it 6 minutes close contact or is it 10 minutes close contact? And so that, I think, is one of the reasons this community looks disciplined in the way it's responding. is because we haven't, we've stayed focused. So I have really appreciated that about Kittitas County. So.
I agree, Julie. When I have conversations with colleagues or friends who are overwhelmed because there's a perception that there's all this contradictory information out there, which I'm not sure is true, but I do think there's a lot of noise. Right. And I say, this is how I say it. I say, I follow what Kittitas County Public Health says to do. That's how I've decided to kind of pattern my behavior. If Dr. Larson says wear a mask, I'm going to wear a mask. And it just helps. Like, I've seen people literally calm down, that there's one source they can follow. I'm sure they're not going to get it right 100% of the time, but they are good. Mm-hmm. And they put information out in ways that are real. I have their, how to go grocery shopping infographic on my refrigerator to remind me of how to go grocery shopping. So I'm glad to hear you say that, because that's what I've been trying to share too, is we have a tremendously good source of information locally, and you can relax if you're willing to follow what they say.
And I think that's so true. And I think they deserve all the support we can give them. I just wrote down that I need to, on Facebook, just shout out, thank you every single day. Because they are between a rock and a hard spot. And I don't think they necessarily receive the support for some of the things they say that they could from some of our other leaders. Go ahead, Liz.
I was actually waving to my husband who's leaving the house right now. But I did want to say, some of the folks who are confused, I have been watching some of the videos that have been posted online by people who disagree with the general public health line, and that may be why some folks feel confused, because some people will make a video and first they'll trot out all their credentials, all their education and experience, and their PhD and their research experience, and then they'll say things like, all you have to do is take vitamin C and vitamin D and zinc and hydroxychloroquine and you will not get COVID-19. And it's like, what? I watched a video where somebody said that after trotting out many credentials, and I'm thinking, so I just wonder, and I watched another video where a couple of ER docs trotted out their credentials and said, we've already got herd immunity, basically, because based on these numbers, enough people have gotten it already that and had no symptoms, and they just, and I could tell from listening to them that they used a totally incorrect statistical analysis, and I was like, ouch. Maybe,
so I think it's important that we tell the truth and we make it, because again, it's not terribly complicated. This is a virus that is spread through water droplets from one person's mouth to another. I don't think there's a lot of discussion about that being the fact or the not.
Nope.
Wearing a mask protects the people around you. Them wearing a mask protects you. Surfaces are important, but that is not where the primary spread is. It's from water droplets from one mouth to another. And so I think, that's a fairly simple method. It's pretty straightforward. Whether you choose to believe that or not, I guess is up to you. And then there's the economy.
And Rolf, what do you think about the safety plan thing? Have you been participating in the I'm not sure, I think it's the incident management team has a page that, about where they have advice about safety plans, and that's another thing I got recruited to do, is to help review some of the safety plans. And have you found that useful at all? Is that?
Well, so I sort of was aware of this in mid-January is when I first said, holy crap, here comes a train and it's headed towards us. It's moving slow, but this is going to hit us. And so by March 1st, I already had my own plan. And my plan, we have followed ever since. And I closed the store before I needed to close the store, before I was told to, just because I wanted to be out front. So frankly, I already had a plan. I had a plan January 1st or March 1st. That was the plan that they are proposing. I think you have to have a plan. And I think it's critical that your plan be something you can sustain through a marathon. Because if you make it this huge thing that's impossible to follow every single day, then it's not going to work. And your team needs to follow it and buy into it. And you have to, as a leader of your business, absolutely follow every step and admit when you screw up. Because I mean, it's just the little things. And when you start thinking about following, I touched this and I went over here and I sneezed here and I went there. I mean, it is like, there's a lot to it. But then again, it's really not, because it doesn't matter where my hands have been as long as I don't touch my face before I wash. I don't have to sanitize every 5 minutes as long as I don't touch my face.
And if you have hand sanitizer everywhere, you can think,
use sanitizer.
oh, maybe
Right.
maybe I need to use this right now.
Yeah. So I think it's great, and I think it's great for businesses that haven't been following this from day one. And you need to have a plan in place, and it needs to be in writing, and you need to follow it, because you have new team members coming into your team. They need to know what the plan is. So word of mouth plans are not so good. But before we go any further, I would like to see if Celeste has something to say. She's been awfully quiet there in the background. Celeste, are you still with us? Okay, and it's all right not to have anything to say, but I just want to make sure we give you space. So if you choose to have something to say, please jump in. So I would like to leave, and I'm not saying we're done here because I don't even know what time it is, but I would like specific things that we should be proposing people do. So I said, one, we should support our health department and give them kudos however we can. In fact, I'm probably going to put that on a sandwich board. And we believe, I think we said as a group, that we should be thanking people who are working and wearing masks, and frankly, anyone who's wearing a mask. So those are two definite steps that we can each take every single day, right?
Yep.
And we can encourage other people to do.
Agreed.
What else can we do?
Yeah, it sounds really trite, but honestly, it's bigger than shopping local. I think it's about shopping small. Find the small business, not the, shop at the smaller grocery store, not the larger grocery store. I think it's been really hard to watch places like Evolve and Claim be closed during all of this, but people going to Fred Meyer's and buying clothes. And so I think it's been great to have places like Safeway and Fred Meyer's here to support us so we could get our groceries. But now, to the extent that we can support those businesses that had to close, I think it would be really helpful. And I personally know I can only eat at so many restaurants this week.
I think that's an excellent idea. So maybe being conscious about where you're spending your dollars, and not only shopping small, but shopping where you believe the business is being conducted in a way you agree with.
Correct.
Where they're wearing masks all the time, where they're asking their clients to wear masks. And that's not an easy thing to do as a business owner. I mean, those people that are doing it, like the recycle shop, and I'm sure the vast majority of restaurants are doing it. In my understanding is it's a requirement. They have to wear masks. It's not optional. My understanding is I have to wear a mask. It is not optional. But many places it appears to be non-existent. And so I would spend my dollars in places where I believe they're being responsible. So that sounds like number 3. Maybe even number 4. So we need to all wear a mask, right? We all agree in public we should wear a mask. And I think wear a mask even when you don't necessarily need to, so that other people see it's okay to wear a mask. I feel strongly about that, that if I wear a mask, maybe somebody else will go, oh, if Rolf's wearing a mask, maybe it's not so weird.
I have a mask that doesn't have elastic around the ears. It has I made it myself, shoelaces, so it ties, and so it's really easy to pull it down when I'm driving in my car by myself, and pull it back up when I am. And so I hope that people can tell that I have it around my neck even when I'm not absolutely wearing it. I don't know, but
yeah, the mask around the neck is the new necklace, maybe. So I'm glad we're able to come up with definites, things that we can definitely do in our community to help lead, to help be responsible. Anything else anyone can think of that we can do? Yes, Nicole.
And this comes from my nerdy tech perspective, and it piggybacks off of Julie's support your mom and pop things. If everyone took 5 minutes every day to leave a Google review, a Facebook review.
Oh my God, yes.
For their favorite local places. And then if they took the time to look and find their favorite post or the thing that business is doing and shared it, I see it on the back end as far as the posts that I have helped different businesses craft. The more shares they get, the more business they get. It's a very, very simple technology age-based scenario, and so many people don't realize that. They don't think that their review matters. They don't think that their share matters. And it's like, it's now more than ever. We don't actually have the same rules that we had even 3 months ago with social media. People have asked me, oh, when's a good time to post? And I was like, when people are awake, because someone else is awake. None of those rules are there anymore. And it kind of goes to show it's such a big social movement, and it's not a surprise to me because it's social media. So if you took 5 minutes to post a review, to share with friends, and to even the word, it's word of mouth, but it's just online. For some reason, it seems like in our community, a lot of times we stop thinking of it as word of mouth because it's social media, but it's still word of mouth. You still have, 200 to 2,000 friends that are getting to interact with you.
Good point.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. What time are we at? Okay, so we are getting kind of towards the end. So is there anything else anyone would like to bring up? And again, I'm going to kind of reach out to Celeste. If there's anything you would like to add to the conversation, we'd love to have you do so. But is there anywhere else anyone would like to go with this? I'll stop saying
I guess now I'm going to say the social justice aspect of this is also really important to be visible. That the way what we're seeing in terms of the fault lines in our community of who can weather through this pandemic and who cannot, and who needs more help, and how we reach out to members of our community who, I'm on Central, I'm part of the Central family, and I'm quite disturbed that during the middle of a pandemic, Apoyo got an eviction notice because maybe somehow we believe that one food bank is enough for this community, or that, I don't know. That's an editorial comment, but I guess that I just want to keep that part of the conversation alive too, because the businesses I think that are engaging with the community in positive ways are also helping with that. They're also helping us see how we can be better neighbors to each other, who might be suffering most, and how we can not turn away from some of those disparities that are now so visible. And I know I want to turn away from them sometimes because they break my heart, but I don't want to turn away from them because I feel like you said, Rolf, like we have the privilege of having, and also the obligation to be in a position to help.
Yeah, and thank you, Liz, for bringing that up, because that's one of my big concerns too. I've seen a number of different appeals for donations, and I don't know how to figure out which would be. I know, like United Way of Central Washington says they're putting together a fund to help, and then there's a local Kittitas County thing that I've seen, and I know, because I've been involved with United Way, I know a little bit more about how they make decisions, but I don't, like the local one, I don't know who's making decisions and how transparent there will be about how they decide. And so I'd really like to have more guidance and more understand better where I could make a donation that's really gonna make a difference. I mean,
so
I only don't.
The Kittitas County one, Liz, I don't know if you know who Charlie Sorensen is.
I've seen her name on Facebook, but I don't know who.
She's been very involved with that, and she's also, I know her through work with the League of Women Voters.
Okay.
She's amazing, and so if you grab my email, it's the Liz Mountain 64.
Okay.
I'll connect you with Charlie, and she can tell you more about that fund specifically.
Okay.
But I agree. I think maybe we also want to think about our role in sharing information about how to help, where to direct, you know, our focus, our dollars, if we have them. In our home, we are incredibly lucky to both be healthy and employed, right? And so when we got our stimulus money, our question wasn't, it was where to pass it along to. And we made some decisions about that based on our values and how we like to do things. But I think everybody could use some guidance about that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that's one of the things a lot of us are like, how can we help? I mean, even beyond a donation, I mean, there's some even bedrock things that are profoundly wrong, and have been wrong for, right, hundreds of years. And things that need to be atoned for and fixed. And I mean, it's almost beyond me on what to do and how to start. And to some extent, I'm not even sure if that's a space for me. I mean, I'm a white male. No one has more choices than I have been privileged to have. So it's interesting. I have found that the one thing I can do is to ask questions and listen. To figure out the other's perspective, because it's really interesting to think that this kid who works for me, his parents told him what to do when he's pulled over. I didn't do that with my daughter. Now my wife tells me yes, but I told your daughter how to behave when she walks down an alley or if it's dark at night. And I went, wow, you know, I didn't do that, right? As a white male, I didn't really think about where I can go and where I can't go. So I just think this is a time to have some empathy and to have some conversations, I guess a conversation to listen to understand what someone is saying. But I am somewhat at a loss. And so I'm going to reach out to some people. I mean, the best thing to do is, one, read a book, and two, reach out to people and ask them questions, and questions that are uncomfortable, right? Like, tell me, have you felt racism as an employee of my business? And it's heartbreaking when they say yes. And I'm aware of that there's times when some of my clients decline help from someone. And now that's very, I mean, you don't necessarily know what's going on. And, you know, and that's probably part of the problem with this whole issue, is that it is very subtle, right? I mean, there's a lot of things going on. When they say structural, it's bedrock structural. But I don't know, it's a big deal to me. And I don't even know how to begin. I know one thing is not to be quiet and just to admit you don't know what to do, but you know it's not right. And no, people shouldn't be burning down businesses and things like that. But when people are put in fear and stuff, I mean, bad things happen. And it's by no means do I justify any of that, but I just know that there's things that need to happen, and need to happen here and need to happen everywhere. So if anyone has a thought, I mean, this is something that we could talk about for forever, but I don't want to talk either. I hate just talking. I want definite things that we can do.
I think an actionable thing from a bookstore owner perspective. So in a way, you're really lucky, right? You don't wear, if you think about like wearing a vest and wearing layers, the more minority layers that you possess, I possess 3. I am Japanese, I am a woman, and I'm gay. Many of those I'm lucky enough to hide, but I still have 3 vests on, right? Mine fit a little bit more comfortably than some other people's. But if you don't have a ton of vests to wear, you're really lucky, and you can actually just be a resource. And you as a bookstore owner are extra lucky. How cool would it be if there was like, so you're a white dude and you don't know what to do starter pack, and they could just buy like 3 books and it came with, you know, a gift certificate to the Pearl, so they can drink a little and they can read a little, drink a little, read a little. Cause I think that would help my personal health. Yeah, who knows? There's like inspiration there that, I don't know.
I missed a little bit of that conversation, Rolf, because I was saying goodbye to my husband again. But I've read some books recently, White Fragility being one. Yeah. Those of us who have white privilege, I thought I was pretty aware, and I'm reading this stuff and I'm thinking, oh God, I was not nearly as aware of what it meant to be white as I should have been. And White Fragility was a really good one there. And then there's a book called How to Be an Anti-Racist that I think is a good one for, I mean, so like if you want to like promote some books that would help.
And we obviously are doing that. Unfortunately, as a bookstore owner, all of those books are gone. So they're having to be republished.
Oh, that's right.
Frankly, there weren't very many of them out to begin with. So we are working on that, but unfortunately, it's not going to be something that happens tomorrow. It will be a few weeks before they're available again. But I think
all right.
We definitely are working towards that, and we always try to create those resources. But just as a broader impact, I will tell you, very few people read. Even if I sell 4 of those books, I'm lucky if one person is going to get through the end of one, and more than likely they won't. That's just a fact of our society. But that doesn't mean that resource won't be made available, and I will definitely shout out about it.
And this is a marathon too. I mean, the pandemic is a marathon. Social justice is a marathon. It's not, you know, it's not like if you don't get those books out tomorrow, you've missed the moment.
Yeah,
There's going to be another moment, unfortunately. I think there's also big value to the symbolism of it. Very few people may actually read it, but everybody sees it as they go by.
Yeah. True that.
You know, I remember, Rolf, when we first had the not first, but it was 2016, right? When the KKK literature was right around the whole election time too. And you started putting things on your reader board about Jerrol's values for diversity and inclusion. And I thought to myself, I saw that made an impact. I may not have walked into your store that day, but it registered with me that this was a business that was making a statement about who it wanted to be in the community. And so I think we can continue to do that. I mean, Central Washington University gets kudos for its diverse and inclusive environment for a lot of our students. We have tons and tons of work to do. But it registers when people make those statements, when businesses, when organizations in our community are willing to be visible about it. And it's kind of a scary time to be visible, honestly. You know, my sister-in-law and I are conversing about Wenatchee this weekend. There's all kinds of buzz about what might be happening in Wenatchee this weekend in terms of civil unrest. So it's kind of a scary time to be visible. Part of me just wants to hide. But I think being visible, whether it's a book display, something on the reader board, it will be seen. Trust me, it will be seen.
Mhm.
Well, and absolutely, and we've done all of that.
Yeah.
And it's not done from a business standpoint. It's done because it's the right thing standpoint.
Yep.
And I mean, we just feel very strongly about being about something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the most powerful message, is the genuine one. You know, that's it. It comes across.
But I want more. I want to do more.
Yeah.
That's easy. It's easy to put something up on a sandwich board. It may take a little courage, but it's pretty easy to do. It's the deeper thing. And I think you're absolutely right. I don't know that there's a vaccine for structural racism, right? I wish there was, but talk about a marathon. Huh. And it's a marathon that people are running and we don't even know it.
Right.
Yeah, I graduated from college in 1977, and I just had last year I had a reunion with some of my housemates from my senior year in college, and one of them just, and so and I was 12 in 1968 when Martin Luther King was assassinated, and when Bobby Kennedy was assassinated, and when oh my God, I mean, that was a rough year. I was 12, and I lived in Ann Arbor, and the riots happened in Detroit, and my classmates, we've been texting with each other, and one of them said, one of my kids told me the other day, why didn't your generation do better? I mean, we knew. I'm in that generation. I didn't realize how much more we needed to do. Wasn't enough to pass the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, and to hope that was gonna do it. No. Oh, Nicole, you're muted.
It's each new generation's job to shoulder a little bit more of the burden, right?
Yeah.
My hairdresser said that they were a big part of the gay rights movement, and that their generation was a little tired because they already fought their fight, and it was time for a new generation to step up and fight the fight. And so there's obviously a gap, right, between your generation and my generation, and there was a lot of silence in there. So please don't take all the blame.
Yeah.
I mean,
And,
it's every single generation's job to just take a little piece of that pie, because all of a sudden, then it gets distributed to everyone. I think there's a lot of action we can all take.
Yeah, I'm struggling a little bit with some of my own decisions. Like when I was a young adult, I moved to Ellensburg, which was at the time, I wanted to live in a college town, but it was a very white town at that time. And it didn't even occur to me that that's what I was doing, that was what I was choosing. Because I could have chosen something else. And yeah, it's,
yeah, but I think the important thing is to look forward, not back.
Yeah, and yeah,
and the past is done, and there's
I
nothing
can't change
we can
that.
do about that. And
I mean, Ellensburg is my community now. It's so yeah, that's where I'm gonna.
And we can change the world from here, because we can change the world from within ourselves. And once we change ourselves, we will change the world.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we take the responsibility to make the change.
And I'm impressed with some changes that I've seen happening at the Ellensburg Police Department, for example. One thing I'd like to do is reach out to Ken Wade and ask him about what kinds of statistics they collect, and how they make those public, because I just don't know. And I'd be really interested. I think our own police department does pretty well, but I know we have, a Hispanic minority here that I suspect gets profiled in similar ways that Black communities do. And I'm curious about what our police department is doing on that level. So anyway, things like that.
Well, I think you're right. And I think our police department does an excellent job. And just in reaching out to the people I've reached out to, the law enforcement side is not something that they have had any issues with whatsoever.
Good.
That's not to say it's not there, and everybody needs to improve. I mean, right, everyone needs to improve. But I don't know that that's not where I see my focus being. I think it's because we're a small community and people go to dinner at each other's houses.
Yeah. And we
I
actually
think there is-
know the police officers who work
right.
here. So,
And I think that's what they're saying in general. That's what needs to happen, because if you don't have someone who's policing from your own community, that's a problem, right? I mean, I don't live in Seattle. I don't know those situations, and the police officers have an impossible job, and there's lots of them, and there's always bad apples everywhere. We could probably go on forever here, but I think we better wrap this up if that's all right with everybody. And I just want to thank everyone for having such a positive conversation and keeping it above the line. This makes me so happy. Is this something that's worth doing again? Hold up your hand if you want to do this again. Celeste, we're just going to infer your hands up.
not sure. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. So I think the important thing, though, is if we're going to do it again, we need to reach out to others, because it's one thing to talk to 3 people. It's another to talk to 20 people, to 40 people, to 60 people. I hope everyone is comfortable if this is released, this conversation to the public. I appreciate that. I think that takes courage. And that's the kind of courage that we need to show. Nothing like the courage other people are showing, but it's a step, right?
Okay, this is Celeste, and I've agreed with everybody, and I have enjoyed the meeting.
Well, Celeste, do you have anything else to add?
Oh, I just agree and have enjoyed the information that I have been able to obtain, and so.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate you joining us. And I hope you'll feel welcome to join next week, because I guess we're committed to do this again next week at 7:30 on Friday. We will provide a link. Celeste, are you someone I have your email?
Yes, you have my email.
Okay, great. Well, I'm just going to put you kind of in a special list of people who've attended this so they kind of get what's going on, because you're going to be our advocates to get more people here. I'm going to lean on you to invite people and say, hey, did you hear about this? You should go look at this.
Okay.
One suggestion I might have, as going forward, is to be a little more specific about, what topics to discuss, because I joined today because I thought we were going to talk more about social justice, and obviously I'm a public health nurse. The pandemic is high on my list too, but
let's just say that next week that's what we'll talk about. I'm not a person that's big into format, structure, or planning. But Nicole is, so she will keep me on task.
Okay.
But I think that's a great idea, and I understand that people want to know what's going to happen. And I know Nicole had me come up with questions, of which I've totally ignored all of them. Would it?
Did you really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
will you use the chat function? And actually, you already put your email in there. So
I put my email in there.
I will send you an email, and if you have any questions that you think would be a good prompt, or that you're curious kind of to feel out what the rest of the community is thinking, I would love to snag those from you and then give them to Rolf, and then mute him, and I'll ask him next
Right.
And Liz, I know you also would have a lot of interesting questions. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this is a community forum, so the community can decide what the discussion is about. The less this is the Rolf show, the better it is. And so I would say that, if you want to be a steering committee that simply deals with this via email to Nicole, let's do it. So Nicole, can you put that out to everybody who joined? Just, what do you want to talk about next week? What questions? And then we'll just pick a subject and say, this is what we're doing. And then we'll go from there. Great suggestion, Liz.
Right. Thanks.
Wonderful. I think let's wrap the bad boy up, huh?
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. And let's go out and do the things we talked about.
Amen.